Okay, so I went and attempted to donate platelets today, and it did not work out again. Stabbed me in both of my fingers to check my hemoglobin. One side said 12.1, the other said 12.2. You cannot donate unless it's 12.5, at least as a female. So I did not get to donate today after driving all the way out there, which, is no big deal. She said I could try again tomorrow if I want. I probably won't drive out there that quick. I probably will see about trying again later this week. The unfortunate part is I did discover that I am up 9 pounds from the last time I went. And I just checked my app before I started the video because I was kind of frazzled over that whole point. It's like, when was the last time? Because every time I go, I always put it in this Weight War app thing that I have on my phone. Because when I was skating all the time, it was moving in a favorable direction. I decided to try to keep an eye on it. And then when it's moving in the less favorable direction, still might as well keep an eye on it, right? So the last time that I went was 20 days ago. So I put on 9 pounds in 20 days, and that makes me very sad. When I was back at home, my mom asked if I got my donation over with, and I said no, because my iron was too low and whatnot. And I said, but I did find out that I've gained I think 15 pounds from the lowest that I'd been after I started skating. That's after I dropped. After I dropped 50 pounds while I was skating obsessively back in from 2023. It kind of started more during the roller derby season because that was the year that I didn't get put on the roster the first couple of games because I had the incident where I thought I was having a heart attack, but I didn't go get it checked out at the point of that happening because everybody was in bed, and I was just convinced myself that it wasn't that big of a deal. Ended up on high blood pressure meds for a while. And this was after the first season that I played, right? So it was August that this happened, and I went and got checked out, got put on high blood pressure meds, and then had a sleep study done and got on the CPAP for a while. And then when it came around to the next season, I had been very hit and miss on going to practices all throughout the off season and whatnot. So as we started getting ready for the actual season, I skipped out enough that I did not get to make the roster for the first couple of games, and because of attendance. So I started going way more than I had. I was I was going to damn near all the practices that at that point in time. We had to go to we had to have so many points. Every practice counted for X amount of points, depending on, if it was Tuesdays were the days for the B team to get the higher points because that was the day we had to be there, or that was the day they preferred us to be there because it was specifically geared toward B team stuff, whereas the Thursday practices were geared more towards A team. And then there's also Sunday practices, so you could just go however often you wanted or could, right? So after I didn't make the cut for the first couple games, I got obsessive about attending practices because I wanted to make sure that I got to play for at least part of the season. And I did get to play the last 2 games of the season that year, in 2023. But then that was the year that like I started skating by myself and realized I enjoyed skating by myself more. But okay, so I start skating obsessively with the practices, trying to get back up to what I need to be to have the points to be able to play in the last couple games for the season. And then started working at the Honda job, where I was walking all the time and basically living on fruit snacks and Dr. Pepper, which was obviously less than ideal. But yeah, that at least the days that I was there, and that was like 2 days a week. But paired that with the skating, the weight loss was kind of a surprise, and I didn't really pay any attention to it. Like I had gone to the doctor in May because I was having a bunch of headaches, and they put my weight down as one thing, and it was slightly lower than it had been the last time. That I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I thought because I didn't go to my actual doctor, I saw somebody else in the office, I think one of the nurse practitioners, instead, and it was on a different side. I thought that, actually, no, the headaches, I did see my doctor. The next time I went in, which was for a physical, I went to a Honda physical. I went to the nurse practitioner, because I could get in with her quicker. And so that was in July. So I'd had the appointment in May for the headaches, and by the time I started this other job, they had, made note of weight loss, but I thought it was their scales were off because I hadn't been trying to lose weight, right? It did not occur to me that I had been skating a lot more at that point in time. So I just I just said, thought it was wrong on their end, on the scale end, and didn't think anything more of it until I ended up, I don't know exactly. I started losing, once I started working in the factory, I was walking all over the place. It was noticeable when my pants started slipping, and I was having a hard time keeping those up, right? So, like, that was the first time I really paid attention to it. It's like, well, something's happening here. But still didn't think anything much of it. But then I started skating by myself, and realized I enjoyed skating by myself out in nature much more than the whole competition thing. So I started doing that a little bit obsessively back 2023. And I don't know how long that weight loss was, but I went in to see the doctor at one point, I think for just a regular physical, later in the year. And I said I'd lost like 40 pounds. He said, no, it looks more like 50. I was like, oh, cool. It's like, I'll take it. But yeah, now apparently I'm going the wrong direction on that end. So that's, that kind of sucks. And I noticed, I mentioned in that video the other day, it's like I feel like I'm getting a little chubby again. Something to that effect. And I guess that makes sense. For 9 pounds in 3 weeks. But my mom made a comment when I mentioned that. She said, well, what do you attribute that to? And I was like, honestly, I said, this family makes it really hard to stay consistent about any kind of anything, right? Because like I was skating, and then, family has some kind of issue happening, and now I'm running appointments all the time. Actually, like when I was skating before all the time, then my grandfather died, and then, then it got cold because it was winter, and then it was hard to get back into it, and then my parents started doing their shit, and then it made it even harder. So yeah, I have commented multiple times recently that their stuff makes it very hard for me to skate, run, walk the dogs, all of those things. And the other day we got back from one of their appointments. I don't even know whose it was at that point. And Gidget went after Pepper, which, Gidget's, she's 8. She was the baby before the new one came into the pack. But Pepper is the oldest, and she's like 13, 14. And Gidget usually doesn't do that. But, as I told my mom that day, it's like she's been missing a lot of walks and a lot of, playing ball and all that stuff. And, the walking stuff, some of that is, absolutely my fault, just because, I get to the point where after spending the day running around with my parents, I get completely wiped out. And then by the time I get home and, it's whatever, and I think about walking the dogs, sometimes it goes by the wayside. So yes, a big part of that is still me, because even the times that I could have been, it was one of those where it's just hard to find the energy and the want to, but then, depending on what the time stuff was otherwise, sometimes getting out into the backyard to throw the ball, because we can only do that in the daylight. But we can make that work for her, but then the others still get screwed on their end, so, okay. So my brother sent me a message earlier, and it was 2 basset hounds and a doodle, right? They had a basset hound and a doodle, and I said, why does it look like your basset hound split in 2? And he sent me a message back saying science. And apparently they found another basset hound in the area, and they said it's a local stray that's been wandering around for a while, and they were looking for the owner, but if there was no owner, then my sister-in-law's friend was talking about possibly adopting it. And I just commented with, and what's the likelihood you'll end up with it? And he sent me a message a little bit ago saying, so puppy might be staying with us. So I guess we'll see what that's all about here in a little bit. But yeah, it's a whole nother weird little random tangent, I guess. But anyway, yeah, it's just real hard with the want to when there's like so much pulling at your energy, and like I have felt really wiped out here lately. Like even today, like, I mean, granted, I did run 2 miles yesterday and then skate 4 in the evening because I was trying to get that ickiness out of my system. And so that, it does make you tired, right? Exercising a bunch when you are hit and miss on it. I mean, even when you're not hit and miss on it, because when I was skating all the time, it was tiring. It's like my body was like burning calories and whatnot, right? So it's like I was tired a lot. But yeah, so I slept really good last night, and then I got up today and decided to go give that a shot, and did not end up happening. But then, then too, with the drive time, it's like now I'm wiped out again. Cool. Last night I went home, and after I did the video, and I think I watched the video and got it posted, and then I went ahead and took a bath before I did the writing. And of course, since we're focused on the book direction at this point in time, I'm trying to prioritize that. And after I took my bath, I was just like, I really just want to go to sleep. It's like, I don't want to do anything else but sleep. And I was thinking about it. It's like, I've been really good about this the past 3 days. I am not screwing myself over and just like throwing this whole new process in the trash because I'm tired. So I forced myself. I put the little timer on my phone, set it for like 20 minutes. It's like, all right, if all I do is 20 minutes, at least I spent 20 minutes on it. So it's not scrapping it completely. So I set my timer. I had some music playing, and I was reading through what I'd written and tweaking. Excuse me. Like that was the biggest thing. It's like, since I knew it was a limited time, one of the first things I do is kind of go back and scan through, reread what I have anyway, and figure out where to add the next story, right? Something's going to come up. I'll go ahead and just like add in from that spot. And it's been working well for me. So it was still kind of along that line, but then I was like, 20 minutes. So it was mainly just tweaking. But it was still focused time toward that project, right? And like the journaling thing, I hadn't done any of that yesterday either. And it's like, I cannot go to bed and scrap the writing completely. I just can't, because that's the priority, right? That is very much my priority at this point, because I know, basically my new life is on the other side of this writing project, this book project, right? That I have known and committed to a long time ago, and multiple times, it's always been me coming back to this whole writing thing. So, like the biggest thing with the Honda gig was I got that because I was slacking off on the writing routine, and it's like, I can't not have some kind of income if I'm not doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, so it was like, I got this other little part-time gig to try to focus on, or so I could have some more income while I was working on the whole writing thing and getting a routine, right? And then it did help me establish that and prioritize that more. I was thinking before I started the video, it's like, it would be really helpful if I figure out a way to have some sort of schedule. Getting up at a consistent time, doing, or like spending whatever time for writing, the running if I have the chance that day, the dog stuff, just having a regular schedule. But then too, it's like, that's a pain in the ass when it comes to having to run my parents' fucking appointments now, right? Because, this one's at 9 o'clock, but then this next one's at 2:30. So we're not consistent anywhere, right? Anyway, back to that weight loss thing. My mom asked what I attributed it to, and I said, this family makes it really hard to do anything, right? And as I'm standing there having this conversation with her, I'm eating like 5 of the Halloween Oreos. And she said, the root beer floats. And I said, well, that too. I said, but also these. I said, but the thing is, this family makes it really hard to be consistent about doing anything healthy, right? The family is the block to being healthy, because, whereas before, when she was distracted with her dad before he died, I was able to skate more regularly. But now that he's gone, yes, she is somewhat wrapped up with stuff with her mom, but not near as much so now that she broke her back, right? And my dad's had his multiple strokes. I was like, there's always something. So anyway, I was standing. It was like, I don't know, like 3 o'clock, and I was looking in the fridge after the damn Oreos. Because that's just, that's the path I go, right? The stress eating. I've mentioned before that stress eating is something that I tend to do, and it's one of those things that just picks up that easy, where I'm not even paying attention about it, and all at once I'm just mindlessly stuffing my face. I did have a root beer float today too, so yeah, so but I did also walk the dogs before I went to my appointment. So I prioritized them this morning before I even set the appointment. And then I was like, okay, with how long it took me to get ready, with what time it was then, it's like, all right, I have time to walk the dogs, so I'll set this appointment for like 1:15. And I would have been there at 1:15 had I not got stuck at the damn stoplight for like 7 freaking runs of the light, because there was construction. It's down to 1 lane in this one section that I did not know about. But, oh well, I didn't stay anyway, so it didn't really mess anything up. But anyway, while I was standing there in the fridge, my mom randomly says, "I'm sorry, I didn't even think about how having this stuff around could be sabotaging your progress." And I was just kind of like, what's happening? Right? It's like, she just, I expressed something and she, like, apologized for it. This is new and unusual, right? So I mentioned to my brother, like, he sent me the pictures of the dogs, and I was trying to figure out that situation, and I was like, oh yeah, so here's this weird thing that just happened. And he said, I would like to think she's turning over a leaf, but I really am just afraid to think in that direction. And I said, I completely understand that and agree. And he said she probably just realizes she's closer than she's ever been to being by herself. It's like, that's a good point, honestly. I said, I have, in the time that she's been coming into my office here lately, I'm pretty sure she has noticed that there's less stuff on the walls, and, there are boxes that have, like, some picture frames and stuff in them, but, like, otherwise she can't really see what's in them, just that there's a couple frames in the back one, or in the bottom one, and less stuff on the walls. I don't think she's noticed for my bedroom yet, but she is, I mentioned the other day that when she broke her back, right? The day she broke her back, like 3 hours before that, she had said something about she didn't know what she would do without me, and I had commented that at some point she needed to figure it out, because at some point I wanted to have my own life. And before she left the house to go over to my grandma's that day, she said, well, I'm glad that you're thinking in this direction. It's time you have your own life, right? But there again, didn't really mean it. But yeah, so then she goes into stubborn mode, and my dad had driven the car home because, it's across the yard since he's not supposed to be driving. But he didn't take any of the heavy stuff that she had driven over there. So, of course, she wasn't just going to leave it there, and that was completely a stubborn, stupid thing. Because, we'd had this conversation where I had said, at some point, you got to figure this out, because I'm not going to be here to pick up the pieces all the time, right? So yeah, that's when she said that, I was completely caught off guard, though. It's like, she apologized. It's like, on that end, that's very unlike her father. And going back to his thing was, that the first time after I got back and was in the process of going through the divorce process. And my cousin's fiance came over to Easter with the family to meet everybody. And my grandpa's at the table talking about how his family didn't get divorced. And I went off because I was in the process of getting divorced. And I was like, yes, because I'm not a part of this fucking family. Except it was like way up here on the outburst mode, because it was definitely an outburst on that one. And I think it had its place. Like, it was absolutely due. Right? Because I'd kept hearing this thing throughout my life, and then to be going through the divorce process and still having people in the family say, well, my family doesn't get divorced, right? So it's like, yeah. But then after that day when everybody that killed Easter, we'd already eaten and everything, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. But, when he came over to make it right, and I was standing in the backyard throwing the ball for Gidget, and he comes out there and he's like, I didn't mean it like that. It's like, oh, well, how do you mean that, right? I didn't say anything to him because, like, I was still kind of pissed at that point. And so I just kind of blew him off. He stood there. He said, I didn't mean it like that. That wasn't an apology. So, and then after that, when my mom asked me about it, I said he didn't apologize, because she was assuming that he had apologized. And when he came over for his apology or whatever, I said, he didn't apologize. He said, I didn't mean it like that. I said, that's not an apology. That has absolutely nothing to do with even hinting that you are going to put forth the effort to change the behavior, which he did not. He, proceeded to go down that path like at least 2 or 3 other times in a short span of time. Right? And I think that was like within that time frame of me going through the divorce process, because the divorce was finalized July 30th, but I had moved back like March 14th, I think, and was trying to deal with the divorce stuff in that time. And I got to the point with dealing with the stuff with my ex, was like, I have no interest in wanting to go to court with him. It's like, could I get anything out of him? Sure, probably. Not interested, just want to be done with it. Knew that he wasn't, like, he was just going to try to drag it out as long as possible, so I had to deal with him, right? So my approach instead was to write a big long email to his mother, telling her all the reasons why I was leaving and would never be back. And of course, her evidence that, of course she knew her son anyway, but I actually had existing proof, but she saw how well I could put a case together for the whole, custody situation, because they probably wouldn't have gotten that all handled had it not been for me organizing the information and getting it all, to where one attorney would be able to handle both his stuff and the shit that she was trying to drag his brother into. I got all the information together, talked to the attorney, and told them what was up, and I said that we needed all of it in front of one judge so they could see clearly what was going on. I said because part of it was just the confusion of taking things everywhere to scatter the information so we couldn't make sense of it, right? So, so his mom knew that I could find those details, figure out how it all worked together, and organize them well and put it in front of the judge, right? And so when I said, I'm not interested in going to court, I just want this, I want to be done. I said, and if you can talk your son into signing the paperwork within 4 business days, that way. It was like Friday, I think, that I think Thursday night I was sending her the email, so she had, no, it was Friday. I said 4 business days, so he had Monday through Thursday, and he signed on Thursday. But there again, waited till the last minute, right? But she knew that I could put, a solid case together if I had to, and I just wanted to be done. So she pushed him, right? And that was the only reason that he ended up signing that, the divorce paperwork, was because his mom was after him. Because she, of course, respected that crunch timeline thing, and she didn't want to have to deal with more legal shit because, of course, she was footing the bill for the custody stuff. So, yeah, even that just me thinking about how, he was always running his mouth about how I was only ever interested in his money, while his mommy was paying for his legal shit with his baby mama, and all sorts of other stuff, right? So, of course, his parents were motivated to not have to deal with more legal shit. But still. Anyway, how did I do that? 3111. I don't know. I've gotten most of my laundry done yesterday and today, so I'm feeling good about that. Got my sheets washed. Gonna hold off on the comforter. Normally I like to wash the comforter at the same time I'm washing the sheets. I mean, I guess I could wash dogs tonight, but does not feel like fun. And I could do it tomorrow. Either way, they need baths, and I don't want them to put them on a clean comforter. So I'll have my clean sheets, but then have the other comforter. I could just switch out the comforter. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I gotta give these dogs baths now, too. Pretty sure Taz has chili on his head, because he likes to beg from when Grandpa's eating. And it's always something. I think Ziva had chili on her, or had Sloppy Joe on her back for a while. That was gross. 6:30. I was thinking the other day, I think the day before yesterday, I had a lot of stuff that I had been thinking through that I wanted to talk about in a video, and then I skipped out on the video that day. It was Wednesday, because I was going to class, so I didn't really want to stay up all night by, not having the video watched and posted before I went to class, so I just skipped it. And it's so aggravating because it's one of those things, it's like now I keep thinking, it's like I had this whole day of things that I had been thinking through, and now I can't think about I can't figure out what any of it was. It's like there was something that I was meant to share, and then it just kind of, poof, it's gone. Oops. Live and learn. So that's, I think, the big thing right now is learning the lessons, right? So I know if I have something that is really solid that I want to talk about, I should go out of my way to do the thing, right? And I knew I wanted to do a video today. Like the shirt. And I don't know. I was kind of feeling the whole thing. And then I kind of dozed in my chair and took my contacts out. And now it's like, I took my contacts out after I dozed. That's not the ideal time to do that. But I was just really tired. And it's like, I'm just going to close my eyes for however long that takes. And then probably have to use eye drops to get my contacts out. Luckily, it was not that complicated. But, yeah. Made it happen. There's more that I wanted to talk about, but I'm feeling it's like all at once it's feeling very warm in here. It was like mid-80s today. I will say though, I've been talking about possibly moving out to Oklahoma with my brother and his family for a little bit. And I will say it is a good thing that has not worked out so far, because apparently they're out in Oklahoma without any air conditioning at the moment. And he said his dog learned a new trick. The doodle learned a new trick. And I said, a good one or a bad one? And he said, depends on how you look at it. And I said, well, in healer language, it's usually going to be something it might be somewhat entertaining, but usually tends toward the more frustrating and deviant than anything. And he said they were sitting on the porch and the dogs were in the house, and they have all the windows open because the AC is out. And next thing he knows, India's outside with them. It's like, did she take out the screen? He said, there's no screens. It's like, oh, well. And then he reminded me that the AC is out. It's like, ooh, that sucks. They have one of the little window units in the room upstairs, but it's nice and sealed in like it's meant to be sealed into a window, unlike how I have mine rigged with painter's tape to keep the bugs out, because I want to take it with me whenever I go, so I don't want it to be there forever, in case I end up somewhere needing it later on down the line, right? So yeah, theirs is put in solidly, so he said they spend a lot of time up there during the day to have the air conditioning, but yeah. So that's another complicated level with the potential of a third dog, as well as the cat. My sister-in-law sent me a picture of my brother sitting outside with the cat in his lap earlier, and the Basset was just like, she apparently adores that thing. And so she's just like staring at it. It's like, apparently everybody needed a kitty. So, and of course my sister-in-law was like, we agree. It's like, yeah, you get the right one. I've thought many times that I regretted having to leave Aphrodite in Alabama. But, like I was telling them, it's like, the bigger thing was I was moving 3 dogs and like, I think 9 birds into 1 bedroom. And the house had, 5 dogs altogether and a dog door. It's like, I couldn't make that work with a cat and not be an issue. Of course, since then I've taken over my brother's old room, and I could have made it work now, but before, when I had, the big thing was 9 birds and 3 dogs and a cat in one little tiny room. No, that's not gonna work. Whether the cat kills the birds or gets out the dog door, that's just, so yeah. So I told them, it's like, the way I figured, the kid needed her, and so I left her for the kid. I said, other than that, I can't think about it. But that was an awesome cat. So yeah. I don't really know of anything else that I want to add to this video at this point in time. I just knew I wanted to do a video before I'm done today. And go figure out whatever I'm doing next, I guess. Although I am more awake than I was before I dozed in my chair. So I think I'll be better ready and able to focus on the writing when I get back home. When I first got over here, there were all these, I've talked about the killdeer birds that are all around this place. I see them a lot when I'm skating. But when I came over here and parked, there were several around, and they were like doing their noise they do and running all over the place like they do. And I looked up the killdeer symbolism, and one thing was talking about new beginnings, one thing was talking about protection, and family devotion kind of a thing. I wish I wrote down the little blip that was most relevant, because I can't entirely grasp it. It was something with the new beginnings, though. But they talked about how they lay their eggs like amongst the rocks or whatever, and then, when a predator comes, their means of distracting them from the nest is to act like they're injured, that they run off away from where the eggs are and, act like they have their wings broken or whatever. And it's like, that's interesting. So now something else I need to study up on. But yeah, it just seemed relevant since they were all over the place again. So yeah, I'll have to look into it further. Maybe I'll just put a little blip in the description. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to go back to that wrapping it up thing. And maybe I think I'm definitely going to skate tomorrow morning. And so this is one of the things that I'm discovering. It's like, I like skating. I like getting the exercise stuff out of the way earlier in the day. So if I'm running, which I do during the week, I'll do that over the park, because I'm not going to do that here. I would love to skate in the morning, but I can only do that on the weekends because I'm not trying to get involved with the school traffic and all that crap, right? So it's like, before I was skating in the afternoon, so it's like I could still do that, but I kind of prefer getting that, like if I'm going to run or skate or whatever and, wash my hair after I'm done, I don't really want to plan on skating again and having to take another shower later in the day, which I'm definitely not above taking multiple showers in a day. That happens kind of regularly when I've done that. But it's still just, less than ideal. But anyway, like the whole thing, I just gotta map out my week better and my days as much as possible to keep them somewhat consistent. And prioritize what needs to be prioritized and all those things. But anyway, since I'm just like rambling more in addition at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and call it, which is really weird being under 45 minutes today. Although I am finding that I'm kind of enjoying giving a little less time to the videos now that I've gotten more comfortable with them. Because before it was always, get the long-winded, boring stuff out of the way and then get to the interesting stuff later. And now it's like, well, whether the interesting stuff happens or not, I'm less afraid of talking about a lot of the things that I would save to the end of the videos before. So now it's just kind of like, okay, so do we need to just talk for an hour and a half just for the sake of most people would find it boring and disappear by that point, right? I don't know. Anyway, so the shorter times might be happening more and more. Well, it just depends on what I have to talk about. But I'm going to call it now. So as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.